Bobby Fi here, flying solo. I think that Sheets is out visiting his son, so I hope they have a good time out there in Virginia. And we'll see Sheets back here on Sunday or Monday. I believe it's Monday. Anyway, guys, we'll go through these games and talk about them a little bit, and I'll just talk about my early look at what I'm doing. I'm going to post, my early builds and whatnot, and off to a good start in baseball. Haven't been playing big, as I mentioned. I like to usually wait till the season gets a little going. Also, been kind of like was a little bit of a rut with some of the basketball stuff that was happening for a while. So, but won basically every slate except for one so far this season. So I'm ready to figure out this one, take an early look, and we'll do baseball and basketball live at 6 Eastern time. So when you get on in here, please hit the like, the subscribe. We want to remind everybody we have all of Goldie's projections, which you can see all the way at the very end. We have Sheets' projections. We have Saber Sim's projections. And we're charging basically a tiny bit more than SaberSim, but it's very, very close. In addition to that, you get my content, Brandon Cruz's, Roadies, and when we get Chan, we get to do the esports stuff as well. So anyway, guys, let's get into this slate. Just going to take a quick look at the weather stuff. And it looks like I think that every game should feel pretty okay to play tonight. I don't feel like terribly worried about any of them. All right, New York and Cincinnati, both these pitchers are definitely in play. Quintana because of the price, Hunter Green because of the talent. And I actually think, though, that the offenses are getting, I don't know how to say overlooked, but I think you could make a case for both these offenses a little bit more. I don't usually love to stack against Quintana, but nobody playing Cincinnati at home, just a little bit interesting to me. So I'm definitely open to all of this stuff. I don't think anyone quite fits the bill of what I would call a priority in this game. I think you could make an argument for both pitchers. I think you can make an argument for Francisco Alvarez. In fact, I think it's a pretty good play at 3,200. But in general, I think this is a good game that I could see, attacking all four aspects of it, both pitchers and some of the bats. But I think Cincinnati is right off the bat one of my, I don't want to say favorite, but one of my get different stacks that I'm considering for today. All right, let's move over to Philadelphia and Washington. And remember, it's a 6:40 Eastern start, so we'll still go live at 6. But we'll, it's easier in baseball than it is basketball to have to shuffle at the end. So we'll probably go live from 6 to 6:30, or as long as you guys are interested in there. And please feel free to drop in questions or thoughts as we go throughout the show. All right, we get it. We got the Patrick Corbin game here, which obviously means the Phillies are going to be pretty chalky. Hard to disagree with it. I think that this is where you're probably going to consider attacking quite a bit. Just a horrible pitcher in Corbin. They've been the worst pitcher in baseball for the last number of years. I would actually make Real Muto my priority catcher as of right now. I think you could make an argument for basically every position player if you want to know the truth. I think these guys are all awesome. It is a lefty-dominant lineup, and they're going to play lefties against Corbin, but it doesn't worry me at all. I like the Philly stack. The problem is just going to be the ownership. And then, as always, I like Aaron Nola. So Nola, Green are two guys who I'm definitely considering that we've talked about so far. And I think the Philly stack is solid. I don't think I'm going to get to anything from Washington at all today. Good afternoon, K9. Good to see you in here, buddy. We'll move over to Atlanta and Arizona. Sorry, guys, got a little bit of a cold thing, so trying to work that off if you notice anything a little bit off. All right, Spencer Strider is on the mound, which means he's obviously going to be – if you're playing cash, I think that you try to get Strider in today. I know it's expensive, but I do think that it's just – it's hard to resist in cash, just getting him in. I think you have to do that. At tournaments, obviously, you can do all kinds of stuff. Tommy Henry up against this Atlanta team. This feels like another spot. I don't really understand outside of I'm confused a little bit, to be honest with you guys. I don't understand why Atlanta is not more popular. And I understand they're expensive, but I think this is where you're trying to spend it. Now, I know it's because you could say it's because of Strider, but that's only 30, even if Strider's 30%. Shouldn't the rest of those lineups be trying to get a good portion of Atlanta to go with Philadelphia? So as I always say, when you have, great matchups for the best hitting teams in baseball that are going to be low owned, take them. I've been doing this with the Dodgers this year. It's worked out really well, and could have worked out even better. But I really like this spot for Atlanta. I think that you want to – I think if you have a spend up that you want to prioritize, it'd be Acuna. And I think this is a really, really solid spot to play Atlanta here. So Very, very high in Atlanta and high on Strider, but I don't see Strider as a must for tournaments. I do think if you're playing cash games, you want to try to get him in. Basically every time he pitches, I think it's going to be the same conversation. Well, Sheets, we don't get to play Brady Singer at 6,800 anymore, and Sheets would be going nuts over this one because we got the giant price bump on Brady Singer. He's going to be over 9K probably by the next time, as Sheets would say. I think he's an interesting contrarian tournament play. I'm not going to get wild and crazy with it, but I do think as a contrarian play, he's definitely in play. No interest in Fetty. I'm not going to get to any of the White Sox bats, I don't think, but there is some cheap. Like if Eloy's in at 3,800, that's pretty cheap. You've also got Shumke at 23, filling a shortstop position, so you can consider it. But I personally side more with the KC side, which I think that most people will as well. So KC and KC and Philadelphia are two of the chalky stacks that I actually like. I do like them, but I think there's just plenty of other places to go. This is not a crazy high power offense. I know they scored 8 runs in the ninth. They scored eight in the ninth or 8 in the bottom of the 8th yesterday. 8 in the bottom of the 8th. That's what it was. It was a 2-1 game and they weren't hitting at all. And then they scored 8 runs in the bottom of which knocked me out of, like, I think I was in second place of the early, whatever my early biggest buy-in was. It was only like $50 or something. But it moved me back to 5th. Anyway, yeah, I have no problem with KC, but I would rather try, and I guess you could argue Perez and Real Muto today is a pretty good conversation, between who you're starting at catcher if in your cash games. I think they're pretty close. All right, moving over to Texas and Houston, Hunter Brown and Cody Bradford. I don't know how many pitches Hunter Brown's going to throw. I've got to do a little bit more digging before I talk to that. I'll speak on that one later. Got a 5.2K prop, nothing crazy. I like Hunter Brown as a pitcher. I'll just put it that way. I like him going forward. This is a really tough matchup, so I'm probably not going to get to it here. And you see that Houston is pretty popular there against Bradford. I could definitely get behind it, but I don't think it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to eat fair bit of chalk here. I don't know. It's something about, like, I like Atlanta better. I like Philadelphia better. I guess Houston would fit in pretty close to next, but yeah, that's the only. I guess that's my only issue with playing Houston here today, is that I just like some of the other stacks as much, or maybe even a little bit better. But yeah, they definitely make some sense. As I mentioned, I like Hunter Brown, but we talk about elite offenses. There are 3 in baseball, in my opinion: the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Rangers. I think those offenses are significantly better than everybody else's. You could argue for Houston as well, but a low-owned offense, a low-owned high-power offense on a small slate, I think you could definitely do worse than taking some shots against Hunter Brown with Houston, with Texas here. Moving over to Seattle and Milwaukee. All right, let's get over here. We've got Peralta and Gilbert. I'm a little bit interested at the price feels a little bit high all over the place here. And I know Peralta is going to be mega chalk, and I get it. I think for cash games, I'll put the core tag on him because I think that makes actually some sense. But for tournaments, you absolutely do not need to play Freddie Peralta here. I actually think an interesting pivot is Logan Gilbert on the other side. So I don't mind that actually a little bit. This is a big park upgrade for Seattle. I don't know if Milwaukee, I don't believe they've seen Gilbert before. And I just need to, again, double check how many pitches. I know we're always worried about the pitch counts this early in the year, especially for Seattle and Dodgers and teams like that. But I'm interested I think Gilbert is efficient enough where this could end up being a decent spot to take a low-owned Gilbert and take some shots with him. I also, I don't want to stack Seattle, but I have no problem if I ended up on any bat against Peralta. Peralta is a good pitcher, but I think, in my opinion, he's a tiny bit overrated. I still think he's very, very good. But you see this ownership today. It's really, really high. Again, I would put him as a core, as a regular play. Like, he's a guy you start in a cashy build, or if you had if you're going way different with your line, with your stacks, I think that he makes plenty of sense. But I don't know that I'm going to end up with him in my big buy-in, for example, in the I just can't picture that I'm going to, as of right now, at least. Boston, LA, Griffin Canning and Cutter Crawford. This price on Canning is a little bit hard to resist. It's not a great matchup exactly, so it's a little surprising to see that amount of ownership. But I do think as far as spend downs go, it certainly makes some sense. Cutter Crawford, I'm not going to be able to get to today, and I don't think I'm going to get to any of these bets, to be honest with you. Just feels kind of like blah. Anthony Rendon hasn't had a hit in like 2.5 years. We'll see how that goes today. I personally, I think I'm kind of off the hitting in this one. So priorities for me are going to be, I like the idea of getting a little different with some Cincinnati. I like the idea of Philadelphia and Atlanta, who are more chalky. But Atlanta is actually not getting the ownership they deserve. So if I had to build a lineup right now, I think I would play Atlanta for what it's worth. Just because I think that, I keep saying this, when you have the best offenses in lower owned spots, even in slightly tougher matchups or just perceived slightly tougher matchups, I think it's worth it to take some shots there. For what it's worth, my core does load. It's just at the very end. So you can see I only put a Real Muto and Acuna for right now. This is just I'm going to edit this and add to it before I post it on our site. But this is just like an early quick look of the core. But I really like the idea of getting to some Atlanta today, and I think that they're just getting a little bit overlooked more than I like. So that would be my best way to get different, which feels funny to say, but you see nobody above 10% owned, at least projected as of right now. Will that change later? Maybe. But there's some good offenses on this slate, so maybe not. I like the Atlanta, and again, Philadelphia as the chalk. I like some Cincinnati and the Mets. I like some Cincinnati, and I like the idea of getting the pitchers in that game. But yeah, and then Houston, pretty chalky. I don't mind some Texas on the other side, but Atlanta's my favorite. Get a little bit different spot. And if I was going to go super weird to get different for a large field tournament, I think I would talk myself into Cincinnati. So that's where I'm at. Appreciate you guys all very much. If there's any questions or anything, get them in there. I'm going to say, please click the like and subscribe and all that stuff. And just one last reminder, Goldie stuff, my stuff is at the end of the pages. Sheets' stuff is up on the site and can be downloaded into SaberSim. We're working on getting some direct access. So Sheets' stuff is just populating SaberSim again. We should have that back up pretty soon. So thanks very much, guys. Good luck to everybody today. And let's